Okay, magandang hapon po sa ating lahat. Magsisimula na po tayo sa ating virtual launch and panel discussion. So, actually, you can turn on your video if okay sa inyong bandwidth, sa inyong internet. Otherwise, okay lang din naman po na naka-off ang ating video. You can also use the chat box para makapag-interact with other participants. And later on, you can use the raise hand button for our Q&A session. Alright, so ako po si Sarah Torres, one of the co-founders of Out of the Box, and welcome to our virtual launch and panel discussion on resisting disinfodemic. So, on Facebook, we have around 15 to 20 live streamers. And here on Zoom, meron tayong around 40 participants. No? So thank you so much for spending the afternoon with us. At gaya nga ng sinabi ni Marlon, another co-founder of Out of the Box, ay happy Global MIL Week. So for those of you who haven't or who have already known Out of the Box for the past 6 years, welcome. And to those na bago pa lang or kakakilala pa lang, we are a non-government organization working to mainstream media literacy practices in the Philippines. So we partner with schools, with teachers, and we create learning materials or resources on media literacy education to support our teachers and, of course, the students in learning and practicing media literacy. We also have advocacy campaigns, of course, first of which is our campaign on defending press freedom. The second is on media and democracy during the elections. And third, which is more recently, our campaign against fake news, which this Iwas Fake platform is mostly about. So today, we are celebrating the beginning of the Global MIL Week. And we are happy to contribute to showcase our platform during this week. No? So all over the world, meron tayong mga kasabay na nagse-celebrate also ng Global Media and Information Literacy Week. So now, let's move on to the overview of our event today. So sabi ko nga kanina, meron tayong first half ay virtual launch ng ating Iwas Fake platform. Actually, for the past weeks, it's already live and a lot of teachers have already started to register on this platform. A lot of them have already used our platform and but later on, syempre, we want to introduce to you the Iwas Fake platform to explore the website with you and hopefully encourage more teachers and more students, even parents, to access these learning resources. So Marlon will do that later on. And then on the second half of our program, we'll be having the panel discussion. So this panel discussion is on resisting this infodemic. Will patient zero ever find a cure? So we're going to have journalists and media professors on board, and another co-founder, Darlene Cay, will moderate this discussion. And after the panel discussion, the floor is open. You can raise your hands, you can use the chat box to ask questions and interact with the speakers. And after the Q&A session, we'll be having parang patikim. What's next for Iwas Fake? So meron tayong tatlong bagay na dapat abangan dito sa ating platform. So this is not just about a website. Hindi lang siya learning resources. We'll be having exciting activities afterwards. And then we wrap up and end of our event. So please stay tuned. And now I will be inviting Marlon to the floor to officially begin our walkthrough of the Iwas Fake platform. Marlon?
Hello. Magandang hapon. So, hintayin lang natin mag-live tayo sa Facebook and we're good to go. Ayan. Una sa lahat, salamat po sa pagsama sa amin ngayong hapon. Ako po si Marlon, kasama ni Sarah sa Out of the Box Media Literacy Initiative. And I'm very, very happy to be with you this afternoon to share with you this newest project that we are launching called Iwas Fake. So I actually want to start my presentation with a story. 7 months ago, 7 months na po tayong naka-lockdown. Actually, 7 months na tayong naka-quarantine. Ano? At yung Iwas Fake campaign actually started, I think, February or March. During that time, of course, I was stuck at home, and I was thinking of ways for us to um, launch a new campaign about fake news. And very obvious kasi nung panahon na yon yung pagkakatulad ng fake news at coronavirus sa napakaraming bagay, no? Napakaraming aspeto. Una, mahirap itong kalabanin. Ikalawa, tayo ay pinag-iingat upang hindi tayo mahawa dito. So, what better way to teach about prevention of the spread of fake news than to um, have a campaign on it, no? So, ginawa namin yung iwas fake na kung saan yung mga letra ng salitang iwas o in English, to avoid or to prevent, ay nilapatan namin ng ibig sabihin. So, I for ikalma ang sarili, W for wag basta maniniwala, and A for alamin ang source at konteksto ng impormasyon, and S for salaing bago i-share at sitahin ang nagkakalat ng mali. No? Actually, kung iisipin niyo, wala namang bago dito sa mga steps na to. Simula nung 2016, no? Nung na-popularize ang usapin ng fake news at disinformation, ay itong mga step na ito ay um, maririnig na natin, no, sa napakaraming mga iba't ibang organisasyon, no? Primarily yung pagpo-promote ng fact-checking, yung abilidad natin na alamin kung ang isang bagay ba ay reliable or hindi. Pero sa tingin namin, merong iba pang mga steps at iba pang mga kailangan nating gawin upang tayo ay mas, kumbaga, immune, no? Mas kaya nating protektahan yung ating mga sarili laban sa fake news. At ito nga, yung tinatawag na emotional skepticism, no? Yung pagpapakalma ng sarili natin at pagkontrol ng ating mga emosyon. At nito nga mga nakalibas na buwan, simula nang tayo ay nag-start nang mag-prepare ng ating magpasukan, naisip namin, bakit kaya hindi natin gawing remote learning resources itong iwas-fake para hindi tayo limited lamang sa isang campaign. Makabuo tayo ng mga materials na pwedeng gamitin ng mga guro at estudyante para mapag-usapan ang fake news, lalo sa panahon ng COVID-19, sa loob ng classroom. And we are very lucky that we are being supported by the US Embassy in Manila and TechCamp Taipei to actually make this vision into a reality. So, kaya naman po, nabuo si Iwas Fake Remote Learning Resources. At primary na resource na amin pong ginugulan ng panahon para mabuo ay yung tinatawag naming Basic Remote Learning Course on Dealing with Disinformation Amidst the Infodemic. So this particular course actually has 4 modules, Module A to B, and these modules are actually designed for self-directed learning and are aligned with the DepEd prescribed MELCs for MIL. So very particular na dinisenyo namin ang Iwas Fake Remote Learning Resources upang magamit ng ating mga guro sa DepEd at upang ito ay maka-align sa MIL subjects na MELCs. Tapos, primary na gusto namin magawa sa Iwas Fake Remote Learning Resources ay makapag-ambag ng resources na pangturo na lapat sa ating very specific context dito sa Pilipinas. No? Napakarami nating resources about fake news and disinformation from all over the world. At dapat hindi tayo nakukulangan ng mga examples dahil alam naman natin na ang Pilipinas nga ay tinatawag na patient zero sa digital disinformation. Ibig sabihin, bago pa ang US, bago pa ang Brexit sa UK, ang Pilipinas ay isang mahalagang example ng kung paano kumalat ang disinformation sa bansa natin noong 2016. So, dapat kaya natin itong pag-usapan sa loob ng ating mga classroom gamit ang mga particular na example sa ating sariling bansa. At definitely sa ating context ngayon ng COVID-19, hindi rin tayo mauubusan at hindi tayo mawawalan ng mga mapag-uusapan. No? Bukod dito, Ang remote learning resources ay may mga kasama ding mga interactive materials para sa mga estudyante at guro na i-access ang resources via online. At panghuli, para naman doon sa mga hindi makakapag-access nito online, meron din na downloadable PDF versions na tinranslate sa English, Filipino at Bisaya. So, para doon sa mga hindi pa nakakabisita sa aming website, ito ay isang overview lang ng itsura nito. Ito ay isang example ng um, interactive na infographic kung saan ang mga estudyante ay maaari nilang tingnan ang iba't ibang example ng mis and disinformation with a specific example no sa ating local context. So, i-launch namin si EWAS Fake Remote Learning actually beta launch a month ago, end of September, and we're very happy that at least 155 teachers, I think, from the last time I checked it, have already registered with us and have visited our platform already. And also, in my own classes, by the way, I'm also a part-time high school teacher. Of course, I've used it in my own classes. And I would actually want to share with you some of the materials that my students and I have been doing for the past couple of weeks since we've been talking about EWAS fake in our own classroom. So definitely, we talked about the four types of COVID-19 fake news, which is typology from the first draft organization. Also from first draft is this very um, um, typology no, ng information disorder na kung saan ito ay nade-divide sa misinfo, disinfo, and malinfo. And of course, this one. I'm sure you're all familiar with this one as well. So lahat nito ay ipinasok namin sa remote learning resources ng iWasWIC at binigyan ng mga specific na activities at examples sa ating local context. So, if you're familiar with Padlet, no, isang very useful at very friendly, student-friendly na digital tool na maaari ninyong gamitin sa inyong classroom. So what I did with my students in this particular Padlet, so gumawa kami ng map ng mga examples. So I asked them to look for examples from all over the world of COVID-19 fake news or COVID-19 misinfo and disinfo. And after they have gathered these particular examples, I asked them to put in comments anong example kaya ito ng misinfo, disinfo. So for example, hanap tayo dito ng example. This one, Xi Jinping created coronavirus to steal the islands. So according to my student, it's fabricated content. And then in class, we discussed what makes it a fabricated content. So we also use Padlet to do verification exercises. So dito naman, naghanap ako ng iba't ibang mga example. Sabi ko nga sa inyo, ang daming example ng fake news sa ating social media. So these are local examples of fake news. And then I asked them to go through the three key questions. Who's behind the information? Is the content authentic? And what do other sources say? So ito yung three key questions na I think it's in Module D of the EWAS Fake Remote Learning Resources. And then the links are placed in Padlet. The students can click on it and watch the content and look for materials. No? Look for materials that can help them answer those three key questions. Definitely, I think what is special about the EWAS Fake Remote Learning Resources is our discussion of this particular issue in our context. So timing na timing, I think this was 3 weeks ago when this issue was all over the news. No? When Facebook actually took down pages that were supposedly spreading disinformation. And this is something that, of course, we didn't miss discussing in our class. No? At napag-usapan namin gamit itong resource from UNESCO, ano ba talaga ang mga solusyon, no? Ano ba talaga ang solusyon sa fake news? And this is something that I'm very excited to talk about with our invited guests later, actually. So, ito ay galing sa resource coming from the UNESCO. These are the different disinformation responses from fact-checking, this one, from fact-checking to law and policy responses. So kailangan definitely ang gobyerno natin ay involved. Number three, um, we also need to involve the platforms, social media platforms. At panghuli, dito tayo papasok, no? Media literacy. Paano natin i-empower ang ating mga estudyante, ang ating mga citizens upang maging normative at ethical ang kanilang pag-protect sa sarili against disinformation. I make use of Flipgrid, which is a very um, fun material to source responses and ideas from students. If you use Flipgrid, it's very easy for you to get the ideas of your students through video format. So dito sa particular na activity na to, we talked about patient zero. No? Patient zero. And the the issue of Facebook taking down pages last week. And then I think this is one of the latest activities we did in class. This one is very fun because it not only required the students to think critically but also creatively. So there are different fake news generators online. So these are some of the examples. And then we did this activity I call micro targeting. This is also, by the way, um, part of the what do you call this? Part of the worksheets ng EWAS Fake. So simple lang yung activity actually. All the students need to do is design or create their own fake news based on an audience group, no? So, for example, ang audience group mo ay mga tao na hindi na masaya or hindi masaya sa pagpapatakbo ng government about COVID-19. What kind of fake news will be effective to them? No? So, dito sa particular na activity na to, the students get to reflect how fake news are produced and why fake news actually become very effective for certain groups of people. So, babalik at babalik tayo sa cognitive biases natin at sa emotional skepticism. So, um, all of these materials are actually in PDF format. So, my quizzes, my worksheets, at my performance task guides. We didn't upload it in the website. If you have visited it already, you won't see it there. Instead, we will ask you to register. Now, I think the link is, ito ata nalagay sa slides. It's cbt.ly/ewasfake-reg. So, when you register with us, we give you the link to the assessment, no? Itong mga PDF resources. And as I've said earlier, we're very happy that so far we've had around 150 teachers already using these resources, and we're hoping, no, that we can share these resources to more teachers all over the Philippines and even outside the country. And we're very happy that when we asked some of our friends from the US, no, to look into our project, they didn't hesitate giving us some very positive feedback and remark about the US Fake Remote Learning resources. And I wish to share with you some of these testimonials from Professor Jeff Scher of UCLA and Professor Sue Ellen Christian from West Michigan University. Let's watch this.
Greetings from the University of California, Los Angeles, UCLA. My name's Jeff Scher, and I've been researching and writing about critical media literacy for many years. I want to say just how impressed I am with the I Was Fake learning resources. This is an excellent curriculum that makes critical thinking about media accessible to everyone. The material is meaningful because it deals with real-world issues in culturally relevant ways. I love the 4 key steps. Number 1, slow down, be calm, take your time. 2, be skeptical, doubt, wonder, ask questions. 3, check the sources and the context. Try to find out who created it, how did they create it, why did they create it. And 4, be careful about what you share. If you spot information you know is fake, call it out. There's so much noise in the media that makes it hard to know what to believe and who to believe these days. So it's really important that we check our sources, we ask questions, and we're careful about what we share and disseminate with others. Thank you very much to the folks who created this wonderful curriculum, I Was Fake Learning Resources. Great job.
My name is Sue Ellen Christian. I teach media literacy at Western Michigan University, and I really care about misinformation, disinformation, and how we can manage our modern digital society. So much information is coming at our students in so many different ways, mostly through this. And so I wrote a book called Everyday Media Literacy, an analog guide for your digital life. And I really rely on lots of fresh and new resources to help my students best understand how information affects them, why they have an emotional reaction to it, and that emotional reaction makes them want to send the information to the rest of the world. The campaign and website #IWasFake is a great resource for your students and for you as you try and help students to navigate our modern disinformation and information society. I love the website's curation of content and making it relevant for a specific audience. I really hope you'll explore it and help us lead the way in helping to create a more informed, democratic, and engaged citizenry. Thanks.
Ako si Christine Sabilla, isang journalist mula sa ABS-CBN. Bilang isang mamamahayag na regular na nagre-report tungkol sa COVID-19, nasusubaybayan ko ang pagkalat ng fake news tungkol sa virus at kung gaano ito kadelikado kapag pinaniniwalaan ng publiko. Mula sa mga produktong aksaya lang sa pera hanggang sa mga payo na nakakasama pala sa kalusugan. Walang tigil ang pagkalat ng disinformation. At ayon nga sa mga eksperto, mas delikado pa minsan ang tinatawag na infodemic. Gaya ng COVID-19, mahirap masugpo at hindi basta-basta ang problema natin sa fake news. Kailangan ng kritikal na panunuri at sama-sama nating pagkilos upang mapataas ang ating immunity laban dito. Kaya naman inaanyayahan ko po kayo na silipin at gamitin ang IWasFake remote learning, mga modules, worksheets at iba pang mga gamit panturo tungkol sa paglaban sa fake news lalo na sa panahon ng pandemya. Sama-sama tayong #IWasFake.
Ako po si Mav Gonzalez, isang journalist sa GMA News. Alam niyo po, ngayong panahon ng pandemya, isa dun sa talaga mga pinagkukunan ng impormasyon ng mga tao ay yung internet. At hindi lang po ito basta-basta yung mga official o yung mga legitimate na media outfits, kundi social media, sa Facebook, sa Twitter, kumukuha sila ng kung ano-anong balita at impormasyon. Para po dun sa mga estudyante natin na nag-aaral ngayon, kailangan maging mabusisi tayo sa kinukuha nating impormasyon dahil hindi po porket na i-post online ay totoo na yan o verified na yan. At tayo naman ng mga adults, yung elders, mga magulang, kailangan po turuan din natin yung mga anak natin, yung mga maliliit nating kapatid kung paano mas maging media literate.
The support and help of our partners from the U.S. Embassy in Manila. So to give us another round of encouragement, let's hear from Matt Keener, the cultural attaché at the American Embassy in Manila. He joined the Foreign Service in 2005 and is serving in his 6th assignment with the U.S. Department of State. So Matt's last assignment was as the Public Affairs Officer in Recife, Brazil. And before Brazil, he also worked as the Public Diplomacy Desk Officer in the Office of Indian Affairs, covering Venezuela, Colombia, Ecuador, Bolivia, and Peru. So I will just share screen Matt's recorded video message for us. For a moment.
Magandang hapon and good afternoon to all of you. It is my pleasure to join you today virtually. The past several months have been challenging for all of us, and I hope that you are all staying safe and healthy through these difficult times. This pandemic has had an unprecedented impact on public health, education, and our daily lives. And while grappling with this global health crisis, we have also faced a frightening disinfodemic. The spread of disinformation is nothing new and not unique to the COVID era. However, the pandemic seems to have amplified the volume of disinformation and the speed at which it spreads in new and worrisome ways. We are here today to discuss how best to help the Philippines resist disinformation in a way that does not restrict human rights nor fundamental freedoms. And we are doing this now, in part, to celebrate Global Media Literacy and Information Week. To effectively overcome disinformation, we must embrace the fundamental values we share and continue to maintain and encourage an open exchange of ideas. To achieve this, the U.S. government encourages a holistic approach to identify, track, and counter disinformation. We raise awareness among vulnerable audiences, increase societal resilience, and champion independent media. We also closely monitor and analyze the latest disinformation tools and techniques to protect the public. One of the most effective ways to boost resilience is through education. An educated population with a high degree of media literacy is a more challenging and costlier target for anyone trying to manipulate it with disinformation. We are encouraged that several Philippine government agencies, civil society, media outlets, and academic institutions have launched proactive efforts to enhance media information literacy amongst youth. I also commend the educators joining us today. You play one of the most important and crucial roles in combating disinformation. Another critical defense against disinformation is a free and transparent news media environment, which is why the United States actively engages with our allies and partners to strengthen independent media. Every year, the U.S. government sends Filipino journalists and educators on exchange programs. Our panelist today, Mr. Raffy Tima, who participated in the State Department's International Visitor Leadership Program in 2009, is just one example. We also sponsor training programs and workshops for Filipino journalists throughout the country and fund media information literacy initiatives like was Fake. Particularly during the COVID-19 pandemic, timely, accurate, and relevant information can save lives. We support efforts to expand access to legitimate information about the pandemic and increase the public's ability to consume COVID-19 information in the media with a critical eye. For example, USAID has launched a video series on Facebook that addresses disinformation and myths about the COVID-19 pandemic. It also provides reliable information to Filipinos on how to protect themselves and their communities from the virus. We supported ADAPT-PH, a nationwide awareness campaign led by YC alumni to encourage Filipinos to observe public protocols that prevent the spread of COVID-19. We funded a Media Civics Lab project led by Study of United States Institute's program alumni that will train at least 100 SK officers in the country to create media and information literacy initiatives in their respective barangays. To help strengthen teacher capacity to teach media and information literacy, we recently offered an English for Media Literacy massive open online course that deepened the participants' understanding of how media shapes society. We also recently supported a Media and Information Literacy for Democracy webinar series to empower teachers to teach media and information literacy. And lastly, we are supporting this was Fake e-learning project, which will provide an online learning platform for teachers and students nationwide on positive online behavior and how to assess online information critically. All these programs work in concert to ensure that we have an informed and critically minded citizenry, independent media, capable civil society, and government that can overcome disinformation without compromising fundamental values and freedoms. I would like to thank our panelists today, Raffy Tima, Darlene Cay, and Maria Diosa Labiste for joining us in this webinar to share their expertise and for supporting this project. I also want to express my deep gratitude to the Out of the Box Media Literacy Initiative for its dedication and partnership. Most of all, I want to thank all of the educators joining us this afternoon. I'm sure you will find this session useful, and I know you will share these important lessons with your colleagues and students. Thank you.
of Out of the Box Media Literacy Initiative. So kagaya ng sinabi ni Sarah, pupunta na po tayo sa next part ng ating program, which is the panel discussion. So I will introduce to you yung magiging panelists po natin for today. Our first panelist is a senior news producer and a news anchor for GMA News. He has several local and international awards and recognitions as a journalist. He is considered as a pioneer in drone journalism here in the Philippines. He has covered war and conflict and disasters. He has produced numerous award-winning documentaries. And actually, very fresh pa po ito, his story about the workers who had no choice but to walk going to and from work during the hard lockdown is the national winner for the best single news story for 2020 in the Asian Academy Creative Awards. Ladies and gentlemen, let us all welcome Mr. Raffy Tima.
Hello.
Hello po.
Good afternoon po sa inyo lahat.
Good afternoon.
Hi.
Ayan. So, ang susunod po na ating member ng panelist ay si Marlon Nombrado. He is one of the co-founders of Fox Media Literacy Initiative then, and an MIL educator. Hi, Marlon. Okay. Ang isa po na miyembro pa ng ating panel ay si Professor Diosa Labiste, but we're still waiting for her. In the meantime, pwede na rin po tayong magsimula dito sa discussion natin. So, patient zero and patient zero and disinformation po ang topic ng ating panel discussion for today. So, iset lang natin yung context the Philippines has been recognized or identified rather as the patient zero ng disinformation globally, internationally. That's a very unfortunate recognition, but ito po ang katotohanan. So in 2016 or in the months leading up to the 2016 presidential elections, nakita po nating lahat kung paano na-weaponize ang digital media at kung paano naging widespread ang disinformation mula noon hanggang sa mga oras na ito, hanggang sa ngayon. So to set the context, alam naman nating lahat, and I think it has been widely acknowledged that the Philippines tops social media use worldwide and the Filipinos spend most time online. Sa buong mundo po yan. At given that kind of context, simulan na natin ang ating discussion. So, Mr. Raffy Tima, given yung kung gaano kalaki ang problema po natin sa disinformation ngayon, as someone on the ground, gaano ba kalaki yung problema? Parang paano po ba siya nagmamanifest sa trabaho ninyo as a journalist? Sa panahon ngayon, lalo na meron tayong ongoing global pandemic.
Well, unang-una muna, magandang hapon sa inyo lahat, and thank you for inviting me to be a part of this program. Nakikita ko medyo familiar yung ibang mga taong nandito. Hello po sa inyo lahat. Malaki yung impact, of course, ng disinformation, lalo na ngayon na merong pandemic. Pero nabanggit mo nga yung Pilipinas bilang patient zero. Hindi na rin siya nakakasurpresa. Dahil di ba umpisa pa lang ng boom ng social media, tayo na yung number one. Nabanggit mo nga, tayo yung tinaguriang social media capital of the world. Di ba? Na-connect lahat ng mga Pilipino sa buong mundo. Kaya lang, ang hindi lang maganda ron, yung kaugalian natin na hindi lang simpleng kwentuhan, kundi chismisan, napunta rin online. Diba? So, doon siguro nagsimula yung lahat na parang na-realize na ibang tao na, ang dali parang mapaniwala ni Mare. Pero ngayon online na. Ang dali mapaniwala na ibang tao sa impormasyon na gusto kong ilabas. Hanggang sa, doon na nag-start, di ba? It was blown out of proportion. Pero noon kasi umpisa, sa mga familiar ka lang, nakakakuha ng impormasyon na naniniwala ka, di ba? Pero as time went on, kahit na mga nakilala mo lang sa internet, or kahit na hindi mo nakakilala, basta lumabas sa internet at sa social media, napapaniwala ka na. Especially kung disinformation yung inilalabas. Disinformation meaning fake news. Ayoko lang kasang gamitin yung term na fake news. Kasi I don't want to parang ayokong sirain yung yung kahalagahan at yung reverence ko about news. It should be about the truth, 'di ba? Hindi walang fake truth. A fake truth is a lie. Merong tawag doon, it's a lie. Tawagan natin siyang lie. At ang fake news is disinformation. So ang tawag ko sa kanya talaga disinformation lang or propaganda. Diba? So, ayun, malaking impact yon sa trabaho natin as journalist kasi nakakagulo siya lalo at nadadagdagan yung trabaho natin. Dati kasi ang pinifilter lang natin yung mga impormasyon na naaangkop sa ating audience, yung pinaka-importante mga impormasyon. Ngayon, nadagdagan pa ng kailangan natin i-filter kung ano yung peke, kung ano yung disinformation at ano yung propaganda. So, yun, mas marami nga tayong resources ngayon. Meron tayong Google, meron tayong internet, andyan lahat ng information, pero mas nagiging confusing na rin. At kung hindi ka masinop as a journalist, kahit ikaw, mapipeke ka at posibleng maging victim ka of disinformation without knowing it. Iba pa yung talagang gumagamit at nagpe-perpetuate ng disinformation dahil meron silang kinikilingan.
Yes, Raffy. Actually, para dun sa kaalaman din ng mga participants natin na nakikinig sa atin ngayon, ang disinformation po sa Pilipinas ay hindi lang dahil sa simpleng kawalan ng sapat na education ng mga tao, kaya nagsaspread ang fake and false information. Ito po ay isang industriya. There have been studies about it that the weaponization of digital media para to spread fake information ay isang industriya. Professionalized siya in a sense na ang gumagalaw po dito mainly ay ang mga nasa creative industries then like PR and advertising agencies or companies. And yun yung isang gusto kong i-tackle. Yung umpisa ng nakita natin itong widespread disinformation ng 2016 elections. Purely political talaga ang parang mainly political ang agenda, ang purpose. Pero Sir Raffy, ngayon ba meron bang parang may shift ba? Or parang same lang yung characteristics and yung kumbaga agenda ng pagkakaroon ng ganitong klase ng campaigns, disinformation online mainly? Saan napansin?
Ayun na nga, parang nag-evolve din siya eh. Dati kasi parang black propaganda lang siya, puro negative lang. Pero ay napapansin na rin natin, meron na rin mga trolls na sinasabing parang positive troll naman. Pero troll pa rin. Naglalabas na naman sila ng mga positive information about their clients or about people that they want to promote. Pero troll pa rin yun, hindi pa rin yun makatotohanan. At ang nagpe-perpetuate pa rin yun, yung mga peke na tao, hindi mga totoong tao. So, trolling pa rin yun, di ba? Pero parang yun na yung evolution eh. Kung dati kasi puro negative lang, puro paninira lang. Yeah. Ngayon, dami na rin sa internet, makikita mo, uy, pinupuri itong taong to, uy, ang dami palang accomplishment ng taong to. Pero hindi mo alam, din pa rin, troll farm din pala ang may gawa nun. So parang gano'n na yung naging evolution ngayon ng trolling at ng disinformation. At kahit na positive yun, disinformation pa rin. At dapat pa rin nating ingatan yung mga ganitong mga gawain. And mas mahirap actually na i-monitor ito at makita. So, talagang dapat mag-research ka about this kind of trolling kasi nga mapepeke ka. At baka kung lalo na kung naaayon yung idea mo dun sa piniperpetuate na disinformation, mapapaniwala ka talaga, di ba? Kung ang kausa mo is about climate change, di ba? At ang nilalabas na information is about climate change, talaga matututok ka ron at baka i-share mo 'yon, di ba? Not knowing na kahit na positive 'yon, baka disinformation siya. So, dapat pa rin talaga tayo mag-ingat.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, if I may add, gusto ko dagdagan yung sinabi ni Sir Raffy about, kasi magandang point.
Ano yung epekto nito sa trabaho mo, trabaho natin bilang journalists?
Sorry,
si Marlon.
Si Marlon.
Okay. Hindi tayo nagkakarinigan pala yun. Anyway, yung point ko doon is, maganda yung sinabi ni Sir Raffy about positive fake news or positive in a sense na It affirms our beliefs, no? Hindi siya basta black propaganda na siraan lang sa politika, pero just the same thing, no? Na it's not grounded on facts, it's not grounded on reality. No, na kaya babalik din tayo doon sa awareness of self, self-awareness of our biases. No? Whether that is politics related or kahit ganun, yung ating mga advocacies. I actually have a lot of friends on Facebook, even if hindi politics yung pinag-uusapan, pero alam mo na for example, they're very into gaming, yung mga estudyante ko. Sobrang they're into video games and all of these gaming culture, o kaya naman K-pop. No? Na kahit na hindi siya political, pero ang daming ganyang klase ng information na nagkakalat sa social media. And primarily because they are interested in these kinds of topics. So yun yung primary na nagtutulak sa kanila to engage in these kinds of sharing of false information. So napakahalaga na nung value of self-awareness, kumbaga.
Yun nga, what I was asking a while ago, ano yung epekto nito? What is the impact? Siyempre, we can all agree that disinformation is a threat to democracy. It basically undermines yung trabaho ng journalists and sources of legitimate information. Ang side effect nito ay growing distrust sa media and sa press. And ang pinaka-end game nito ay sadly yung parang pag-lessen ng civic engagement ng mga tao. So ikaw ba, Sir Raffy, meron ka bang, paano mo siya nararamdaman, like on the ground? Yung increasing distrust ng public sa media?
Siguro yung increasing distrust sa media, medyo yan eh. Hindi, para sa akin, hindi pa yan. Although very dangerous na yan, no? Pero ang mas tinitinan kong problema yung isang society na misinformed na because of all this disinformation. Kasi kung ang basis ng information mo at yung basis ng belief mo at yung basis ng decision mo ay nakabase sa mali, mali na yung magiging decision mo at mali na yung magiging paniniwala mo, di ba? So kahit na i-bombard natin sa traditional media, ito yung totoong impormasyon, ito yung totoong ito yung katotohanan, ang hirap na nilang baligtarin kasi sa umpisa pa lang, mali na yung kanilang basis ng katotohanan, di ba? So yun yung parang mas dangerous para sa akin. Marami na rin kasi akong beses na daming in-engage sa social media ng mga nambabash. Hindi naman siguro kaila sa aking mga friends sa social media na maya't maya ay nakakatanggap tayo ng bashing. Yung mga personal, may mga marugdog talaga, no? Yung kanilang damdamin about certain issues at personal message nila ako. Alam nyo, isa-isa ko silang sinasagot. May mga issues na libo yung dumadating sa akin. Isa-isa ko silang sinasagot. Pag personal message, hindi dun sa social media platform mismo. So ini-engage ko sila at dun ko nakikita kung ano talaga yung dynamics na nangyayari. Kasi yung ibang mga yung totoong tao talaga, ang paniwala talaga nila iba. Hindi talaga siya nakabase sa katotohanan. And through this engagement, kahit paano nabubuksan ko yung mata nila about the real issue. Na since siguro meron lang silang pinapaniwalang issue or meron silang sinusuportahang kandidato, hanggang doon na lang sila, sarado na sila about other things. So pagka tinamaan mo yung nasaktan sila because of what you tweeted or what you said on social media, titirahin ka na without basis. So yun, nung in-engage ko sila, siguro I would say 80%, in the end, nag-apologize at sinasabi nila, sige po, naintindihan ko na yung issue, blah, blah, blah. So doon makikita na ang dami talagang misinformed na tao because of the disinformation na nakikita nila sa social media. So ang akin, ang impact nun is mas ako, kung dati kasi parang ang iniisip ko, palagpasan na natin yan. Kung disinformation, hindi ko na lang siya isi-share. Hanggang ganun lang. Parang ang akin, nagbago sa akin is, hindi lang sa hindi ko siya isi-share, pero i-engage ko siya. At sasabihin ko sa kanya, uy, mali itong information na ito. Dapat mo itong itama. Mali ito. So dapat meron ka kumbaga dapat may pushback. Hindi lang na wag natin silang pansinin. Hindi na tayo dapat ganoon Dapat mag-engage na tayo. I-push back natin by calling them out na talagang mali yung kanilang piniperpetuate.
Okay. Before we continue, joining us now is yung isa pang member po ng ating panel. She is the assistant professor at the journalism department sa University of the Philippines, Diliman. She was a community journalist for almost 20 years before joining the academe. She received her PhD from the University of Birmingham in UK, and her research interests include media and democracy, new media technologies, community journalism, and alternative media. Her works have been published in numerous journals here and abroad, and she has educated and trained countless communication professionals, teachers, media workers, and journalists, including myself, Marlon, and Sarah of OOTB. Please welcome Professor Diosa Labiste. Hi, ma'am. Welcome po.
Gandang hapon sa inyong lahat. It's nice to be here. I'm sorry I'm a bit late sa discussion, but I'm listening to what Raffy has been saying, and I agree with him na we have reached a crisis of sort dito sa disinformation and the circulation of fraudulent and false information, and all of these have been revealed during the pandemic. Ito na yung crisis na lumalabas talaga yung problem natin on disinformation, because the pandemic offers a lot of, para siyang petri dish din siya ng disinformation, because of fears, because of anxiety, because of the complexity of explaining what is this pandemic all about and how we're going to end this. People resort to all sorts of information to educate themselves. Actually, they're doing themselves a disservice kasi most of this information are unverified. Most of them are probably conjectures, hoaxes, and false cures and remedies na people would end up confused. Ito yung nangyayari sa atin sa pandemic. We are saying that disinformation has predated the pandemic. Long before pandemic, COVID-19, meron tayong disinformation. Even before 2016 election when Duterte sat in office. But there is a particular ring to it when we say that in 2016 meron tayong nag-explode yung disinformation. During the time of pandemic, nag-explode yung disinformation because these are crisis situations, and in crisis situations people are grasping for information, and sometimes they don't get the kind of information that they need. So yun lang yung preliminary thoughts ko on, and I agree with what Raffy had been saying, na it's as worrisome. And even in our personal lives, na penetrate na tayo ng disinformation because it circulates all over us. And ito yung mga persons close to us, they also are exposed to it. And tayo naman, we try to find ways to debunk it, but sometimes wala tayong energy at we can only do so much. Thank you. How's that for a preliminary? I'm sorry.
Yeah. Ma'am, I was reading your what you wrote doon sa information disorder sa Asia and the Pacific. Yung meron kasi po kayong sinulat na trends doon sa disinformation. So you mentioned that a while ago yung pagiging political ng nature ng disinformation leading up to the 2016 elections and siguro beginning of this year. Pero ngayon pong meron na tayong COVID-19 pandemic. Ano ba yung shift nitong characteristics ng disinformation, and ano pa po ba yung nakikita natin na kumbaga pagiging evolution niya in the months and years to come?
Timing lang kasi Professor Chu and I are writing a journal article on the infodemic. Kasi infodemic, this has been a long used term. Before the pandemic ng COVID-19, ginagamit na tong infodemic. It refers, yung definition kasi ng infodemic, yung confusing information. But in February 2020, yung WHO used the word infodemic to refer to the disinformation surrounding COVID-19. So yung we analyze, Professor Chuan and I analyze yung mga fact checks ng Rappler at Verifiles, because these are the two news organizations who are doing systematic fact checking of COVID-19 disinformation. And nakita namin, there's a trend that nag-shift siya towards claims on intervention on the pandemic. Ito yung mga trends, mga claims on cures, remedies, tsaka may nagsasabi na, meron ng vaccine. Actually, ginagamit na yung vaccine. But the fact is, wala pang vaccine. Wala pang cured, claims on specific cures na event or na research on this. So these are just possibilities. Pero there's a lot of fact checks on that kasi nag-circulate yung information. Another is, there appears to be more fact checks on personalities and influencers na nagsasabi na nag-i-endorse ng something. These are mga like si Manny Pacquiao or sino mga celebrities na nagsasabi ng something about the pandemic. Some of them are believable, some of them are quite questionable or fraudulent na claims. Pati yung false claims, like may mga the Queen endorsed Duterte, yung mga ganon, may mga ganong claims pa. Another thing is, there seems to be a preponderance of false claim. In other words, nakikita namin yung mga fact checks nila, madaming false and fake over needs context or needs explanation, na more nuanced kasi to yung mga ibang ratings. But it appears to be that there had been more false claims. In other words, ganun ka-predominant at ka-prevalent yung false claim or disinformation na pwede mo sabi na peke yan, mali yan, but these things are circulating on Facebook, on Twitter, on chat apps like Messenger, and of course, other platforms like Instagram. In other words, we are seeing that information disorder or infodemic has reached a level na magiging may fatal consequences siya. Like when you circulate a claim and then hindi pala dapat na cure yun, tsaka hindi pala dapat na remedy, you might end up dead or your condition would worsen. So hindi lang siya, it's like political fact checks or not political disinformation, that it's between these two camps na nag-aaway, and these are just on political issues. But in COVID-19 crisis of disinformation, these have fatal consequences. In other words, pwede kang magkasakit, pwede kang mamatay, pwede mag-worsen yung condition mo because of your vulnerability to all sorts of claims.
Wait lang.
Actually, katotohanan. Unmute yourself, darling. Please unmute yourself.
Okay, yes. At this point, we'll be entertaining a couple of questions from the audience. Kung gusto niyo pong magtanong, kindly just raise your hand o kaya pwede po kayong mag-chat doon sa ating chat box. I am browsing through, meron po bang magtatanong ng questions? Paki-on lang po yung video and yung mic ninyo, or pwede rin kayo mag-chat doon sa ating chat box. Kung meron pong gusto tanong sa ating panelists.
I think si Sir Jomel. Sir Jomel Liza, you can perhaps unmute yourself.
Hello po, good afternoon to all our panelists, and hello OOTB again. I was one of your participants from the boot camp last 2019.
Hello, sir.
2018, yeah. I would like to ask our panelists na yes, we are battling two pandemics here. One is a pandemic of the COVID-19 and the other one is a pandemic for disinformation. I would like really to ask is, how great is the impact of our fight in this infodemic? Um, how great is our how great is our fight against disinformation amidst this pandemic, especially that we have a media giant shutting down, and then there are some are saying that that objectivity of media. Actually, I think Ma'am Labiste already explained this to us in our one of our webinars in CEGP about the objectivity of media. But I would like to reiterate once again, and I would like to ask again, um, how great will our fight against the infodemic affect, or maybe sorry, how great is the ABS-CBN shutdown and all these events related to telling these media companies that are biased in our fight in this infodemic.
Raffy, you want to answer?
Yeah, siguro ako hihiwalay ko yung issue ng ABS-CBN and the fight against itong disinfodemic. Tama ba yung term na ginamit ko? Yeah. Kasi marami namang platform para labanan yung disinformation, lalo na when it comes to the pandemic. Yes, medyo malaki yung pilay when it comes to traditional media kasi malawak yung reach ng ABS-CBN. And we need all the resources that we can muster para maabot natin yung mas pinakamaraming Pilipino, di ba? Malaking bagay yun. Pero marami pa namang platform and the biggest platform at yung source din ng problema is social media. So yun din ang ginagamit natin ngayon to fight disinformation. So yun, kung meron mang impact siguro sa traditional media, yung literal na reach ng ABS-CBN nawala, naglaho kasi nga nawala sila sa ere, but they're trying to get back at sana nga makabalik sila. Pero ayun, siguro sa puntong yun, medyo may pilay talaga. Pero tuloy-tuloy pa rin naman yung fight ng disinformation ng traditional media, and of course, mga NGOs, organizations that are trying to fight back. At yun nga, sana yung ibang tao na dati mga fence-sitter lang, nag-observe lang, o kaya satisfied na sila na hindi na sila nag-share ng mga alam nilang mga disinformation, ngayon maging keyboard warrior din sila towards fighting disinformation, na sila na mismo ang mag-call out. Kasi kung meron tayong oras para mag-browse sa Facebook at social media, meron din sana tayong oras na mag-research at mag-Google at tumingin sa mga reputable websites kung ano talaga yung totoo. And then yun ang ating i-call out dun sa mga nakikita nating mali. The past few weeks, ang dami ko ng mga kinall out privately ng mga websites, at dalawa na yung nag-message sa akin yung Facebook na kinall out nila yung website nila because dahil doon sa maling information na nalabas nila at dahil sa prenumpt ko sila. So yung mga ganong action, kahit maliliit lang, malaking bagay na yun. It's a start. Baby steps man siya, mas marami man yung trolls, mas madali man silang magpa-trend at mas magpa-viral, may baby steps pa rin naman. Magsimula tayo sa maliit at pag dumami tayo, I'm sure mas marami pa rin naman talaga tayo naniniwala sa totoong information. Maingay lang talaga sila. Yun lang ang advantage nila. Sobrang ingay lang nila. Kaya nga kahit yung sinasabing distrust at mistrust sa media, sa totoo lang, ako, personal experience ko, kung nasa ground naman ako, pag kinakausap ko sila, hindi naman. Hindi ko talaga nararamdaman na hindi na nila ako tinatrust. Never pa akong pumunta sa isang lugar at out of 10 people na nakausap ko, 8 sinasabing hindi na kami nagtitiwala sa inyo. Isa lang siguro ang magsasabi ng ganon. And that's not a majority, definitely. At sa lahat ng mga pinupuntahan ko, kahit na nagpupunta ako abroad, nung nagsimula na itong attack against media, hindi ko talaga naramdaman na nandun yung distrust nila sa aming mga journalists. Sa social media ko lang siya nakikita. And siguro I surmise na talagang maingay lang sila. Kaya nagmumukhang ay ang dami nang hindi nagtitiwala sa mga journalists kasi nga sobrang ingay nila. And then of course yung phenomenon ni US President Donald Trump. Siya nagpasimula nung term na fake news at pinick up naman ng maraming media, pinick up na ng society at naging norm na siya, di ba? Naging fake news na siya. So kung meron na isang world leader at sa level pa ng Amerika na nagpa-perpetuate ng mga ganitong disinformation, ay talagang lumawak na. At nung sinasabi niya na the media is our enemy, hindi dapat sila pagkatiwalaan, lumalabas na parang ang dami na nangyayaring ganito. Pero on the ground, ako personally, ako kay Darlene, kung na-experience niya yun, wala, hindi ko siya nararamdaman na nawala na yung trust sa amin ng mga tao.
Yes, actually, same din. On the ground, di naman nila yung sasabihin sa'yo. Pero sa social media lang talaga siya nagmamanifest personally, kahit din sa personal experience ko. And siguro yung fact na lang din na hindi naman mas marami, mas nag-increase yung number ng mga tao na sa social media na lang kumukuha ng kanilang balita at hindi sa traditional and legitimate sources ng news, which is the media organizations. Sir Raffy, from Ms. Richelle ko, how do you determine when it is time to engage and when it's time to give up trying to reason with them? Kasi kanina pinag-usapan natin yung na-mention mo yung ine-engage mo yung mga tao na nagkakalat ng fake information or yung mga nambabash sa atin.
Richelle, hi Richelle. Colleague ko siya sa GMA before.
Hi Raffy.
Hello. Ayan. Hi ma'am. Ma'am na siya ngayon. Yes. Ako talaga, meron akong in-engage na galing siya sa UAE. Ito talaga, medyo binuhusan ko ng oras at resources kasi I found out na totoo siyang tao. At ang threat niya sa akin, papatayin niya ako pag uwi niya sa Pilipinas. So, pina-research ko siya through my sources at nalaman kong totoo siyang tao. So, in-engage ko siya. 1 week. 1 week ko siyang in-engage. Habang nag-newscast ako, pag may lull time, nag-uusap kami over social media. At nagsimula kami Monday kasi trinatan niya ako ng Sunday. Sinimulan ko siyang sagutin ng Monday. By Friday, nag-apologize na siya. At least may 3 pang ganun na umabot na hanggang 4 days, 3 days, hanggang ganun. Pero hindi naman dahil sa haba yun ng oras. Pero dahil ang dami niya kasing issues na nilalabas na very legitimate naman yung mga issues niya. So talagang ini-engage ko siya. Yun yung pamantayan ko kapag personal na masyado yung mga atake at hindi na siya lumalayo dun sa mga name calling, threats. Kung hindi na siya lumalayo doon, wala nang kwentang kausap yun. Pero hanggat meron siyang nilalabas na issue na I feel na legitimate naman, inaakusahan niyang bias sa media o kaya meron siyang specific na issue about me, for example, or about my company, or about the media in general, i-engage ko sila. Yan. So kung hanggat merong bagong issue na alam kong may legitimate din naman para sagutin at i-engage, ini-engage ko pa rin siya. Pero again, yun nga, pagka umabot na sa name calling at hindi na siya umalis doon, at puro pamabastos na lang, wala na. Hindi mo na, mahirap ng kanyon. Kumbaga, alam nilang talo na sila at wala na silang mairason sa'yo. Hindi na sila maka-reason out sa'yo. So, hindi mo na, mahirap na engage yun. Baka mawala ka lang sa zen moment mo at gumanti ka. Mga ganun. So, dapat tiyaga lang.
True. Itong next question for Professor Labiste. Mataas pa rin daw yung satisfaction rate ni Pangulong Duterte kahit madami na pong inilalabas na information and balita na, alam mo yun, which should prove otherwise. Ano po daw yung, kumbaga, what does it say about us? Ibig sabihin ba ganun ka na-penetrate na ng disinformation yung ating bansa? Kaya po ganito yung nangyari? Professor Labiste?
Mute ka pa, ma'am.
Is this from Mr. Villarmino, Fernando Villarmino?
Yeah.
What do you think? would you think there's a connection between the ratings dun sa survey and the amount of misinformation or disinformation that have been circulating and thus accepted by citizen? Mahirap kasi mag 1 plus 1 na therefore ganyan. I mean, these are surveys have their own methodologies. They have their own way of getting information. And I'm not an expert on surveys. I don't engage with with surveys a lot, although I read them sa news. My work is more on dissecting or analyzing this information. So it's, for me, walang ganun na dahil popular siya, therefore baliwala yung pati ko sa kanya kasi talaga he's the best president in the solar panel or something. We shouldn't resort even to the binaries and simplification over these things, because disinformation is such a complex phenomenon. It brings in inequalities. Sino ba yung may access dati sa correct, accurate information? Hindi naman lahat nakapag-aral sa atin. Hindi naman lahat may cognitive resources to see through disinformation, because sometimes we can be taken by disinformation kasi akala natin totoo kasi sinabi ng ganitong tao na mukhang credible naman. So these are complex issues when we analyze information, and it's better to look at the specific information and track it down where it's going, just like what probably the fact checkers is doing, and not to easily say na we can make a connection between this phenomenon, or like saying that this one leads to the other or this one affects the other, unless we closely examine it. Mahirap kasing mag-conclude. Yun yung kahirapan dito na it's a complex issue. Even political disinformation is not just whether you support this person or not, but what is behind it? Sino ba may kagagawa niyan? Who is benefiting from all this? May kumita ba doon? So these things are very much part of the way that we have to engage or examine this information. I don't even have answers to this. The thing with me is that sometimes is that I would look at these trends. I would look at this yung typologies of disinformation, the types, the kinds, the forms, but how these emerge, I could probably track it, but why do they emerge in a particular period, especially when you inquire into motives of people? Sino bang kumita, sino naka-benefit nito, para sa anong ideological and political intent? You can only infer. And that is, I think, the challenge of studying this information. It brings in a lot of issues at the same time, a lot of perspective, and there's no easy way to explain it.
Dar, actually, gusto ko lang dagdagan yung sinabi ni Ma'am Diosa, putting it in the context of talking about this information with our high school students, because I know a lot of our audience and participants are actually teachers of MIL, no? Na when we speak about or talk about fake news and disinformation inside the class, most of the time it's limited to fact checking, no? Na this is how you decipher which is fake, which is fact, which is okay, no? Again, we are training our students how to analyze, but at least in this forum, we get to realize that there are so many other questions that we are missing, no? Like for example, yun nga, motivations. Who are the people who benefit out of this, no? In Philippines being patient zero, ano yung papel ng Pilipinas dito sa whole global disinfodemic na tinatawag? So, I think these are very important conversations that we must be able to help our students articulate, no? Whether these are through debates, no, in our classrooms, or through interactive activity na kung saan mas makakapag-reflect yung mga kabataan natin sa usapin nga ng fake news. I think Sir Raffy has something to say.
Yeah, siguro dagdagan ko lang ng konti. Siguro ilagay ko lang sa context yung popularity ng Pangulo vis-a-vis yung satisfaction ng mga tao sa response ng gobyerno sa pandemic na ito. Siguro kasi dito rin nasasalamin no, yung success ng Duterte administration in trying to shield the president from the negative and parang napapalabas yung positive sa kanya. Pagka merong magandang balita, siya yung nagsasabi, babayaran ko ang PhilHealth. Okay. Ano pa ba yun? Basta yung mga positive, ang Pangulo yung nagsasabi. At yun yung narinig ng mga tao. Pero pag meron ng issue ng corruption, nauuna muna yung mga nasa baba to deal with it. At pagka medyo lumalaki na, sasabihin niya ngayon, ang DPWH, maraming corrupt dyan. Kailangan ayusin niyo yan. And then, bumuo ng committee ang DPWH para ayusin yon. So, para sa tao, parang, okay, ang galing talaga. Alam mo yon. So, talagang seasoned politician kasi si Pangulong Duterte. So, alam niya how to weave itong different issues and different, ano ba tawag dito? Obstacles sa kanyang political career. And doon mo makikita kung gaano talaga siya kasanay para ma-hurdle ito mga to. So talagang popular siya kasi yung gustong marinig ng mga tao, narinig nila from him. Yung mga issues na malapit sa kanila, yun yung talagang pinupukpok niya at sinasabing gagawin ko ito ng paraan, susolusyonan ko ito. Kahit na medyo matagal na hinihintay yung solusyon, pero yung mere fact na sasabihin niya na susolusyonan ko ito, parang yun yung natatandaan ng mga tao. Siguro, this is also born out of frustration sa years and years and years na naghihintay tayo ng solusyon sa ating mga kahit mga maliliit na problema. At parang konti lang yung mga leaders na nagsasabi na kahit na walang solusyon, talagang sasabihin nila na hindi, susolusyonan ko ito kahit na yung solusyon nauurong na nauurong. Alam niyo yun? Parang, parang political maneuvering. And they're very successful in this. So siguro kaya nandun pa rin yung pagiging popular. Siguro para lang mailagay sa konteksto yung issue ng kanyang popularity.
Marami pong gusto pang magtanong, pero dahil naubos na po tayo ng oras, dadalawan na lang po yung kaya namin i-accommodate. Yung isa po si Miss Charlene Wallingford. I hope.
Hi, good afternoon po. Good afternoon to OOTB and to our panelists and my fellow participants. Just like Sir Marlon, isa rin po akong guro sa senior high school. Nagtuturo po ako ng MIL and art sa mga students ko. And na-mention na rin po kasi kanina yung about sa empowering our students to be able to digest and dissect information and fake news. And ang question ko po is somehow related to bridging or filling in gaps between generations. Kasi di ba po, meron pong recent studies kung saan sinasabi na karamihan po talaga sa mga nag-share ng fake news and fake information ay yung mga may edad na. So since we are now on the process of teaching and empowering the youth, how do we encourage them to, paano ba sasabihin? Paano natin sila may encourage, na i-encourage din yung mga nakakatanda to check on itong mga fake news na nakikita nila. Kasi diba, usually we want everything to start at home. So marami rin po kasi sa mga students ko ang medyo na-challenge kasi they have their parents and relatives na yun nga, na parang mahilig mag-share ng fake information and ayaw naman po kasi nila na parang ma-offend ang mga nakakatanda. So how do we encourage our students to still speak out, to call out without being disrespectful? And as teachers, of course, we don't want to be labeled then na parang tinuturuan natin ang mga bata na maging bastos for calling out older people for sharing false information. So ano po kaya yung magandang gawin for those kinds of situations? Maraming salamat po.
Hello, Charlene. I also have read studies that says that yung disinformation cuts across generations. It's not just the older people who are sharing information, but also younger people who are knowingly taught, would think that some information are correct, naging victims din sila sa disinformation. In other words, yung disinformation ngayon, wala nang pinipili. It's actually present across ages and across generations. So as teachers, I think we are more concerned about the young minds and how would we teach students to think critically for them to make sense of any information and have this attitude of verifying everything which they would find questionable. So yun siguro yung skills na dapat equip natin sila to be able to assert, to be able to think through, and to be able to reason out with anyone, regardless of age, on, for example, may nakita on the claims that they found questionable or the claims that they found to be correct, so dapat i-share nila. In other words, I think the responsibility of us teachers is how to make our students imbibe this attitude of questioning, of being critical, of not being intimidated by threats, by fears for speaking out. In other words, hindi tayo dapat, hindi sila dapat matakot to say the things that they want to say and to debate with anyone and to reason out. I think these are the skills which are life skills, and they could help our students negotiate their way to become more informed, become more responsible citizens. Yun lang yung masabi ko sa question ni Charlene. That's a very good question, Charlene, by the way.
Siguro madagdagan ko lang ng konti. Isang bagay din siguro ng criticism sa ating mga Pinoy, masyado tayong mabait, masyado tayong mapagkumbaba, at yun nga, ayaw nating makasakit ng kapwa. Kaya kung pwede, tumahimik na lang. Isang trait yun na ngayon, hindi siya nag-work in our favor kasi nga, mas nananahimik na lang tayo. Siguro isang simpleng solusyon dun sa para hindi ka naman magmukhang kinakalaban mo yung elders mo o kaya kamag-anak mo na nirerespeto mo, I'm sure, of course, is by, kunyari, may share na disinformation or propaganda, mag-share ka rin or kaya mag-reply ka kung ano yung totoong information about that. Mag-research ka about the particular issue, and then yun ang i-post mo as a reply. Not necessarily calling them, oy, mali ka, o kaya, oy, mali naman yung pinost mo. I-post mo lang kung ano yung tama. And then, from there, kung ano yung reaction nila, and then start a conversation. Para lang sabihin mo na, oy, parang subtly saying na, oy, ito yung totoo. Ito yung totoo, yung pinost mo hindi. Parang ganon. Para lang makapagsimula kayo ng conversation without hurting kung sino yung original na nag-post, na kung kamag-anak mo yun or kaibigan mo or somebody na mas mataas sa'yo na ayaw mong masaktan. So siguro isang simpleng paraan yun para ma-call out mo pa rin sila.
Ako yung gusto ko lang idagdag quickly. Maganda na banggit ni Ma'am Diosa yun na...
Ito, last question na po ito.
Hindi ko naririnig ni Dar. Pero medyo choppy kasi yung internet ni Dar. Dagdag ko lang, no, bukod dun sa skills nga, maganda yung ma-promote natin yung attitude ng grit na, meron tayo sigurong successes na mafe-feel kapag na-correct natin ng isa nating kamag-anak o kaibigan na nag-share ng fake news. Pero kasi yung problema ng fake news, hindi naman siya masosolve after nating makapag-fact check ng isang news. Although all of these are part of the whole solution, pero this will be a long battle. So, importante yung grit, yung determination, yung commitment sa values na especially sa mga kabataan natin ngayon na very vocal, most of them, according sa observations, ay politically involved, politically expressive. So, napakahalaga na hindi sila ma-disillusion. No, na hindi nila ma-feel na, ano ba yan, call out ako ng call out pero wala namang nangyayari. So I think the important thing that students need to develop through media literacy ay yung attitude nga ng grit, yung value to commit to change things, change the system. Ayan,
Okay,
Bart.
I think
Yes.
just a little. I gusto ko yung sinabi ni Raffy kanina na yung and even his practice of his persistence to correct or to engage even those who I think are yung detractors so-called or yung mga nag-criticize sa media. I think it's also trying to follow up yung sinabi ni Marlon na persistence because we cannot win this disinformation battle overnight. Yun lang.
Dar?
Naka-satellite yata si Darlene, medyo may lag.
Oo nga.
Hindi pa niya tayo nasesend.
Okay, eto. Okay na po ba? Naririnig ba ako? Ito, last question na from Robinson Valenzona. Ang sabi niya, he thinks that many Filipinos are easily deceived by disinformation, fake information dahil may high levels of functional literacy yung Filipinos, yung ability to comprehend compared to other countries. Kaya ang tanong po niya, do you think the quality of education here in our country is a contributing factor kung bakit marami ang nag-victimize nitong disinformation and kung bakit mas madali siyang nakapenetrate sa ating society, sa ating psyche? And siguro to add to that then, para ma-wrap up na rin po natin itong discussion na ito, I think it's safe to say na lahat naman tayo dito ay naniniwala na may pag-asa pa, no? Kaya nga natin to ginagawa, kaya nga tayo nag-uusap at kaya tayo nag-iisip ng mga projects at paraan kung paano malalabanan ang disinformation. So yung tanong niya tungkol sa quality of education, tapos idudugtong ko na lang din, at what point do you think kaya nang maging fake news proof or maging immune na ang mga Filipinos sa disinformation, and what would it take for us to get there? Mention na kanina ni Marlon na this will be a multi-sectoral approach, hindi lang naman to sa pamamagitan ng pag-fact check at pag-call out sa mga tao, although yun ay very real, valid, and very immediate responses, no? Pero in the long run, anong pwedeng gawin ng media organizations, anong commitment ng academe and media literacy advocates para tapos na itong ating problema?
Should I answer it? I think
yes,
we should
go ahead.
Expand our repertoire to deal with disinformation. Dalawa lang kasi yung palagi natin nakikita, media literacy and fact-checking, as if yung burden of solving the disinformation is in these two practices. Hindi naman tama yun. Let's expand the scan of things around us. Look at structures, look at institutions, look at groups of people, look at communities. Ano ba nangyayari nun? And for us to probably find ways, creatively enough, to find tools and techniques to deal with disinformation. Hindi lang natin ibuhos sa fact-checking at saka media literacy as if these are the solutions to this disinformation problem. Even among practitioners sa media, ano ba nangyayari sa media? Kasi kahapon may isang webinar na sabi ng isang participant, actually si GMA, sabi na, we have so much entertainment but less information. Yun yung like an admission of what the media failed to do all these years. Kumita sila ng kumita, they have infotainment, but they forgot this very important thing, which is to make people aware that I think it's not even that, it's this consciousness raising, as NGOs would say it. This trying to increase the people's awareness of the things happening around them and to be critical about these things as they have experienced it, as they have seen it before them. So I think for us, the challenge for us bilang mga guro or as teachers is to find new ways to deal with disinformation rather than resort to simply just fact-checking and media literacy. Like it takes a community or it takes a nation to deal with this. You might as well try to look for other ways or tools and techniques to deal with disinformation. Yun lang.
I agree.
I agree.
Dagdagan ko lang siguro ng konti, no. Yung mga ganitong discussion, malaking bagay ito at kailangan siya ma-sustain. Ang nangyayari kasi sa atin, kahit na sa traditional media, kapag may malaking issue, doon tayo nakatutok. Pero pag medyo nag-wane na yung issue na yun, we move on to another issue. Itong issue ito, dapat hindi natin makalimutan. Dapat nasa forefront lagi ito. Kahit na may malaking ibang issue na lumabas, dapat nakatutok pa rin tayo dito. And malaking bagay nga na sa schools masimulan ito. Or siguro ewan ko paano ma-incorporate ito sa mga lessons ng mga bata, especially dun sa journalism. Ako nag-start ako sa campus journalist at ang dami kong mga natutunan nung ang campus journalist ako na not necessarily nakuha ko from a subject, pero nakuha ko siya as a campus journalist. Natutunan ko sa campus journalist na hanggang ngayon nagagamit ko pa siya. So hindi ko alam kung paano siguro i-incorporate ito sa campus journalism at ma-ingrain ito sa campus journalism, lalo pat ngayon elementary pa lang meron na di ba? May mga campus journalists na tayo sa elementary level pa lang. So dapat doon pala magsimula na tayo. Kung gagawin na natin itong isa sa mga bedrocks of good journalism, yung pag-push back sa disinformation and the fact na meron talagang disinformation, siguro doon tayo magsimula.
Ako na lang last na yun, exactly yung sinabi ni Sir Raffy na we just have to keep on talking about it. Kasi nga, disinformation won't disappear, won't vanish in thin air, through fact-checking or through whatever media literacy initiatives that we have. But by talking about it, keep on pressuring maybe Facebook, pressuring media organizations, pressuring governments, sabi nga nila, kapag mas matalino yung tao, yung mga publiko, kapag mas engaged sila, mas kaya nating mag-push back at mag-demand sa ating governments at sa ating social institutions. So it will really take a long while, and definitely our education systems can do so much improvement when it comes to developing curriculum, developing resources, etc., etc. And we're just very happy that through EWA Straight we get to also help some teachers, assist some teachers ngayon na remote learning, yung new normal ng education, ay makakatulong tayo na makapag-provide ng mga tools na pwede nilang gamitin sa classroom to teach about this very important issue we are facing.
Yes, and actually, to add to that, ang mahalaga kasi na hindi tayo reactive lang sa pag-combat nitong disinformation, na hindi lang tayo maingay sa pagko-correct kapag lumalabas na yung actual fake information. And as all of you mentioned, systemic problem ito. So we also need a systemic solution. Kailangan ma-ingrain ang discipline of verification, fact-checking, and most importantly, critical thinking skills, at magsisimula naman yan at madedevelop yan at maitatanim yan sa ating lahat through our teachers, students sa loob ng ating mga klase. Kaya po ginagawa natin ito. And on that note, maraming salamat po sa lahat po ng ating panelists. On that note, I am calling on Sarah again para po kwentuhan tayo a bit, bigyan tayo ng outlook kung ano yung magiging next projects po ng Out of the Box and ng Iwas Fake campaign. Sarah?
Yes. Maraming salamat po ulit, Sir Raffy and Ma'am Diosa. So nice to see you po. And to the rest of those who asked questions. So we still have a lot of questions, but ayun nga, because we have limited time, so I would suggest you can maybe message or email our panelists directly and converse, no, enrich this discussion. Because syempre, collective action naman po talaga. We're all in this together in varying degrees, in varying positions, no? But we're all in this together to fight disinformation. So, with that, meron lang kaming tatlong bagay na gustong i-promote. Una, for our teachers and students, please abangan po ninyo ang Iwas Fake Campaign Competition. No? So it is on media literacy and COVID-19 for high school students to be launched next month. So that is our other way, no, to really spread this advocacy, no, through a campaign competition. Secondly, we will have additional resources on our platform. So kung hindi pa po kayo nag-register, register na po. Magkakaroon po tayo ng additional modules on press freedom, on media bias, on propaganda. Now, these keywords na kanina pa nababanggit ng ating panelists. At meron din on digital parenting because as with the online setup, parenting is vital na rin, no, sa education ng ating mga kabataan. And lastly, our MIL for Democracy Handbook. No? As mentioned, mahalaga yung role ng media literacy sa pag-flourish ng democracy, no? Sa pag-safeguard ng democracy. And we want to produce this handbook together, of course, with one of our partners, the IVLP teachers from the US Embassy program. So this handbook will deep dive on the topics that we've mentioned a while ago: press freedom, digital literacy, media literacy, as another aid or another tool for our teachers to enrich media literacy education. So, ayun po, yun ang aming mga dapat niyong abangan. And now, we wrap up the discussion. I invite again Darlene to end our virtual launch and panel discussion. Thank you so much.
Ayan, maraming salamat, Sarah. At maraming salamat po ulit, Professor Diosa Labiste, Mr. Raffy Tima, and of course, Marlon Nombrado. At sa lahat ng sumali po sa ating discussion ngayon. I think Professor Labiste shared her email address. Kung meron pa po kayong additional questions na hindi natin accommodate, and nandiyan din naman ang social media accounts ni Mr. Raffy Tima para po matanong nyo din siya ng inyong mga questions. So again, this is the launch of yung Iwas Fake Remote Learning Resources namin. 6 years na po ang Out of the Box Media Literacy Initiative. And i-follow nyo lang po kami sa aming Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram accounts. And for more information para ma-access ang Iwas Fake Remote Learning Resources, punta lang po tayo sa ootbmedialiteracy.org/iwasfake. At hindi po ito magiging posible kung hindi dahil sa suporta ng US Embassy in Manila at Tech Camp Taipei. Maraming salamat po ulit, and we will see you sa susunod po naming webinar. Thank you very much, everyone.